Hi, back for another video. Going to talk about the apostasy and what the great falling away really is about. So let's get on with this here. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 3. Don't let anyone deceive you in any way, for that day will not come until the rebellion occurs and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the man doomed to destruction. Alright. So what we're largely taught is this man of lawlessness is the Antichrist. That would be akin to what we've come to understand that fallen Adam really represents the Antichrist. He's really against the spirit of what Christ really died. And he died actually as a witness, as a testimony to the spirit that gave life. And that spirit was the daughter Zion. We're told all about her in the Old Testament. When you understand the words and the terminology that they worked so hard to hide and really try to get you to dismiss under their man-made laws, which we did. So when we look up the word rebellion, I believe it's the word rebellion we want to look up. It's actually Strong's Greek 646, and it is a feminine noun. Oh my gosh, you see, they use these aspects to really diminish the feminine under their male theology that they want to teach. But this apostasia absolutely has to be female. It absolutely has to be female. And it means a defection, apostasy, a revolt. Now understand, when Paul began to depart from Old Testament law and he began to preach Christ, he was considered an apostate in his day. And make no mistake, these daughters, when they begin to depart from man-made theology taught as Christianity today, they're going to be seen as apostates, is what they're going to be seen as. Now, that's his 144,000. And yet if they don't come on scene, the body will never be seen to be pure and holy. Never. It says if the first fruits are holy, then the lump is also holy. You get that in Romans 11. And the word for lump there is body. Well, you know, if we even take a look at this picture of a man as the head and the body as the bride, you're looking at, let's see, a male head and a female body. I won't even tell you what that's a picture of. Alright? I won't even tell you that. So something's screwed up in the theology right there that you need to actually understand and really take a look at. And so apostasy is a feminine noun, defection, apostasy, revolt. Leave, depart, which is derived from 575, which means away from, and from 2476, to stand. Alright? Properly, a departure, implying a desertion, apostasy, literally, a leaving from a previous standing. And it's a feminine noun, and it's given here as a great falling away, is our understanding. And it's feminine. Defection from the truth is what they're trying to say it means. No, I'm going to say that's absolutely a lie. It's a defection to the truth. That's what it's to. And it's ironic because this word actually is going to lead you to, let me see here, your next word, 647. Apostasian, a repudiation, a divorce. A bill of divorce is your next word here. And they're part and parcel of what's going on. That's what this is. Certificate of divorce. She's actually divorcing fallen Adam's theology, which if we recall, let's go back here, what happens after this rebellion occurs? Watch. Don't let anyone deceive you in any way, for that day will not come until the rebellion occurs and the man of lawlessness is revealed. It's interesting that he appears on scene at the time of this rebellion occurring. And that is why it's occurring. Right? That's why this man of lawlessness, I stated that wrong, comes on scene is because this rebellion, these daughters are beginning to rise up and see the truth, the greater truth, all right? In the Word as well. They've actually broke it all down. The seven thunders have uttered. That scroll that was rolled up, that John was told not to utter, that Daniel was told not to utter, and Paul was actually told not to utter what he had seen in the third heaven. And we discussed all of this and the elements of the glory and what they represent and all these things. And so we're looking at really these daughters of Zion who are called your first fruits actually divorcing fallen Adam or the Antichrist theology. Now what are we told in Daniel that the Antichrist actually attempts to put back into play? Apparently he does do this for some time. And that's the Old Covenant, is what they call it. They mean Torah. They don't mean Noahide laws. They mean the Torah. And the Torah, you understand, after we've gone through many, many studies. I ain't saying I got everything 100%. I ain't saying I said them right either. When I say them, sometimes I do get them a little screwed up. And I see those mistakes, but I never really address them or correct them. I apologize. I'm just trying to get the main theme owed here for people who are interested in understanding what's really going on here. And this rebellion is about the daughters rising up and realizing that there is something wrong with this theology as taught to them by fallen man. And it is taught to them by fallen man, make no mistake about it. And so this Antichrist, who is a Jew, or he's going to appear that way, rises up with the Torah in his mouth. And he says, hey, let's put the effect of God, the true Word of God, back into total effect. And it's really a yoke on our neck, on the daughter's neck, that he's really attempting to do. And he's called the Antichrist because what Christ actually died to was testimony. He was giving testimony to what gives you life, which is this spirit, the daughter of Zion. Now, he also showed us what those laws and commandments of God, of the daughter Zion, should look like. And we're given indications of it in chapters like Isaiah 58. They address what God expects us to do under these laws of heaven. They're not a yoke on our neck. That's why Christ says, you know, my burden is light. And he's talking about the so-called yoke that the kings of the earth took counsel against the daughter Zion to cut that yoke off in Psalm chapter 2. So that they could write their own law and yoke her under him, is what they did. But Christ says, my yoke is light. God's law does not suppress. God's law does not teach favoritism. Because when they teach favoritism of a man over a woman, and you can say, no it don't, yes it does, it creates violence against her. Because they begin to take full control of everything and say, well, she's really the one to blame and we're really, you know, oh, woe is me, look at me, you know. And put that yoke even harder on her neck, which is what this Antichrist, and he's against these daughters, who in the very beginning was the one that Adam rejected. He did not want a covenant with her. And we just discussed this on the last video I put up. So it's clear what's going to take place. These daughters has to rise up in accordance with Romans 11. And they try to make Israel a masculine where it should be a feminine. And then there are points where it's talking about the men of Israel. So you can masculinize it in those particular portions. But you have to get the full view of what's going on. We are not made in a man's image. We are made in our mother God's image. And she says we are cut from her. And when we receive those doctrines of truth straight from heaven, it requires you taking the yoke of man-made law off your neck and stop bowing to a man as if you're God, as if he's God, because he's not. And Mother says, I'm going to remove that name, Baal, out of your mouth, which is another word for your husband. And there's reasons why, you know, Ezekiel had to eat man's crap. And in that chapter, and we're going to discuss them possibly in a long video for my other channel, he took offense to that. He said, well, why do I have to eat, man's dung? And he was representing supposedly Jerusalem, this man was. And he had to take in his body, he was supposed to eat man's dung. And she said, well, okay, well, we'll change it. We'll change it up for the dung of cow. And so he did that, but he was showing you Baal is what that example is showing you in allegory. And so, but I have gotten away here. We'll get on to that in the next video. But what this is showing us is that these daughters are rising up and they are divorcing fallen Adam's theology. And they are beginning to hearken to Mother God's truth and what her role in this world really was. And it was to represent Mother God as the spirit upon this earth that gives life by the word of truth. Now Adam was to receive his doctrine, his words, from his own wife. That's testified to in Proverbs 5. And it also states that the wife, the bride, is a fountain sealed. Well, sorry, a bride isn't many men, women, and children married to a man, all right? It also states there'll be none given, none taken, but we can get into that too and look at that. But she states in Malachi 2, God states, she was always the wife of your covenant, always. And just because you decided that you were going to exalt a harlot doesn't mean you get to keep that covenant. Because she was the one that you were to be married to. And so instead of changing the covenant, she sends a son that has been shaped by her teachings. And what we come to understand is Israel is the mother that we're cut from, who was from above in the very beginning, and the mother of us all. And that's represented by Sarah in Galatians 4. And these daughters absolutely has to, at least this one, that mothers chose out, that's known before the foundation of the world, to divorce this fallen Adam's theology. And she comes back to the truth as was promised, because like we discussed in the last video, Mother told her, go ahead, let him have his way, and let him fall into his own snare. And that leads us up to the foreskin being cut away. These men that will not receive the teachings of the daughters of Zion, when she actually literally manifests with the spirit of Mother God on this earth, with all the power that she has, and she has great power, make no mistake about it. This is the cutting away. They're going to have to either receive those teachings and come under her protection, or they're going to be cut away like the foreskin, because they just are not going to be able to give up the lying teachings. And that's the snare that we discussed on the last video, that they literally fall into. And in Isaiah 3:12, I couldn't help but see this right quick. It says, youths oppress my people. That means boys. It's a masculine noun for children, so it's boys. Boys oppress my people. It says women rule over them? No, women don't rule over them. Men did. Women were supposed to rule over them. They were the proper rulers over them, in the sense that they were to give Mother God's truths to them. And I know this to be true because where I used to go, it was the young boys and the men that ruled over us. The women were to remain silent, they were to remain seated, and if there was a boy, even if he was 14 or 15 years old, he was appointed to teach that lady over there who was sitting down with a silenced mouth, who was maybe 60, 70 years old, but that 14-year-old boy got up and taught her. And these men encouraged it. And also that's why you see many other things in passages. I ain't got a chance to talk on them because I'm out of time already. But it's what men hold as valuables in this world. And if you go look at the passage in Psalm 17, verse 13, it tells you they hold their sons as their value. Their firstborns. Well, sorry, the sons aren't the firstborns. It's always been Ephraim, known as the daughter, right? And we might discuss that in a future video. So that's 15 minutes. I want it to do it better than that. But thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a really nice day.